Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show. I'm Frank Hughes, the chairman of Skelmersdale United Football Club, and alongside me is my co-host and passionate press officer AJ the Jet. Not that being involved with the football club is a prerequisite for hosting a football podcast, but it certainly helps. We are ready to dive headfirst into the vibrant world of non-league football in the Northwest, and we might even take a moment to discuss some of the bigger headlines in the sport. We'll explore life in the Northwest counties, bring you interviews with well-known faces in the league, and analyse how local teams are performing while making bold predictions for their upcoming matches. Nothing is off the limits here. We'll be diving into all kinds of topics, including complicated refereeing decisions and regulations that often leave fans perplexed. We want to hear from you too. This is your show, so don't hesitate to reach out with topics you want us to tackle. Let's get this conversation started and enjoy every single moment. We are speaking frankly. Hello and welcome to the 21st episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show, and a warm welcome to my co-host AJ.
Hello Frank, hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the 21st episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show. Coming up on the show today, we're going to examine all the goings on in the Northwest counties across the last week or so, from Premier to South to North. We're going to check in on Marine. We're going to examine in a bit closer detail Cheadle. And then we have our examination of Avro to come as well. And then in part two, we're going to be interviewing Winsford United's joint manager, Dean Jones, in the wake of Winsford's clinching of the Division 1 South title during the week. And then, of course, in part three, we will sit our expert analysis on the upcoming games. So all of that is to come. But first...
Well, it's been an interesting week in all divisions, and
yes,
as you've alluded to there, one huge issue already settled. Winsford clinched the title on Tuesday night with a resounding 4-0 win over Cheadle Heath Nobads, and like you said, we'll be introducing Dean Jones in the second part of the show. Unfortunately, Dom Johnson, and that is D-O-M, not to be confused with Miami Vice, his partner in crime, is busy with work, so he unfortunately won't be on the show.
Oh, never mind.
Anyway, but listen, Premier Division, we started the Premier Division as we always do.
Absolutely.
In the Northwest Counties Roundup. Bury maintained their position at the top of the league with a 3-0 win over Squires Gate. And Lower Breck just kept that pressure on them again with a magnificent away win at the Alamat.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't... When we started this podcast and when we were in the early stages of looking at the league and the examinations of the Premier Division, I don't think either of us had a bet on Lower Breck not only challenging for the title at any stage, but still be challenging for the title with 2 games of the season to go. It's quite incredible. I think a lot of people thought that Bury would kind of canter to it. And obviously they had challenges from Chadderton and Ramsbottom United over the bulkhead of the season. And now Lower Breck from very sort of out of nowhere, really. The dark horses have come roaring into second place and look like they're going to take it to the last game of the season. They're only separated by 3 points with 2 games left to play. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think we alluded to it on one of our previous shows. We've not really mentioned Lower Breck, but we started to, but they crept into it, didn't they? In many ways.
Yeah.
But listen, there's a plethora of talent in Liverpool, and just assuming that they've tapped into the huge pool of players there.
I think that's very possible. Yeah, I mean, look at what they're doing. I mean, not only are they sort of the second team in the Premier Division to surpass 100 points, they've scored 22 goals and conceded 2 in their last 6 games. So they've scored 111 goals overall, a a feat that only Bury have beaten them on, but they have the second meanest defence in the division. So it almost, looking at it numerically, it makes every sense that they should be there, but no one expected it.
No, and of course, looking at the table there's actually 3 teams that have scored more than 100 goals.
Certainly have.
Padiham in 4th place, 101. I've not looked at the record books, but no doubt somebody will tell us, but that could be a record in the North West Counties, 3 teams above 100 goals, I would imagine.
Possibly, yeah, but what an incredible season it's been in the Premier Division, and it's going to go down to the wire. Very exciting.
And I think the most interesting part will obviously be, and we'll talk about it in the last part of the show, will be the playoffs, because I think we've virtually got, bar West Didsbury, who we'll come to, certain of the playoff positions. Lower Breck, Ramsbottom, Padiham,
yes,
and of course
we'll all be there.
It could be Bury in the playoffs, but right at the moment they've got the advantage.
Certainly do.
But listen, West Didsbury and Chorlton had a late 80th minute winner at home to Cheadle in front of a fantastic crowd of 1,320. They are now 6 points ahead of Earlham, who dropped 2 points away at South Liverpool.
Yeah.
1 more point out of their remaining 3 games, and they will be confirmed into the playoffs.
Yeah, they absolutely will. So we thought that West Didsbury and Chorlton were quite heavy favourites to secure that last playoff place, and it's a really good crowd actually. We know that West Didsbury and Chorlton can turn a decent crowd in of sort of 800-900, but this being a big one, and Chadderton are sort of quite local really, sort of North Manchester down to south, and what a game they were witness to there. It was quite intense, I think, by all accounts. But luckily, West Didsbury and Chorlton have kind of come out of the right side of that one. Only just that one goal to nil, but 1-0 is all that really matters, really. And with 3 games to go, their next game is away at AFC Liverpool. You'd imagine that they'd secure the points that they need there, really.
And arguably in the playoff, if you were to pick a final, I would assume you'd probably go for Ramsbottom versus West Didsbury, purely based on the fact that they can both clubs can create a crowd. From a neutral's perspective, and certainly from a financial perspective, both of those teams command really big, really quite large crowds, particularly West Didsbury and Chorlton with the student factor in there as well. So from that perspective, you would. But as we said last week, Padiham themselves can command a crowd. I mean, it was over 500 that saw them beat Squires Gate last week. You'd never count them out of rummaging up a big crowd. No, certainly wouldn't. So at the bottom of the table, Cone sort of pulling off their end of season Houdini act as usual. They beat Litherland 3-1 away from home, and swap places with Prestwich Hayes, who lost 2 at home to promotion seeking Ramsbottom. No disgrace there.
No.
But Prestwich will be kicking themselves as Rammy snatched all 3 points in the 97th minute when Luke Barlow lifted the ball over the Prestwich keeper.
Yeah, I saw the goal and I saw the celebrations from that one as well, and that will have done Steve Wilkes and Rammy absolutely the world of good. It's given them their 5th straight win in a row, and they're going into the playoffs with a really kind of good run of form behind them. Cone versus Remica. I feel like it was to be expected. I called it. I said that Cone were going to win this purely by virtue of Litherland Remica having lost their last 2 games and sort of winless across their last 6 anyway. And Cone, as you say, sort of pulling their Houdini act. It's quite regular for them, isn't it? They're sort of
I think so,
down there in the mire quite regularly. They went behind quite early on through Litherland's James Hamill. But Cone equalised within 3 minutes and then took the lead right before half-time, held that until the 80th minute, and Jude Entwistle with his 10th goal of the season to secure the 3 points with the 3rd goal for Cone.
Yeah. So it looks as though it's pretty much in their hands there, isn't it?
Yeah,
without a shadow of doubt.
They're very much in the driving seat as far as the battle for relegation is concerned. There's 3 games left to go in the season. Cone take on Cheadle Town at the weekend at home. Whereas Squiresgate have to take on Glossop North End, albeit at home, and Prestwich Hayes have to visit Barnoldswick, which anyone will tell you is not the easiest game. No, not at all.
But they could still escape Prestwich.
Any of them could really.
But I don't think Squiresgate will. I think they're 5 points behind now, aren't they?
They are 5 points behind. Yeah, so 3 games to go. It's a big one to. I mean, even if they lose and Cone win at the weekend, it's not technically, mathematically confirmed. But you kind of have to say that at the minute the writing's on the wall for Squiresgate. I think the writing's on the wall for Prestwich Hayes as well. But you just never know. You just never know at this point.
No, but looking at the form table, Prestwich Hayes are 16th position.
Mm-hmm.
So
just 1 win in the last 6, yeah.
Yeah, and then you look at the Squiresgate not that far behind them, are they? 2 places behind them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Cone, like you say, in 12th position and looking really good. So
looking steady enough, yeah.
Well, we look at the form at the bottom of the table because you're looking to see who can escape. But just sort of finalising the Premier Division, I think it's really important, isn't it, going into those playoff situations that those teams that are in those positions show some form, and it's difficult.
They're all showing form.
It's difficult to tell them apart and see who's going to be who's going to be the really hot favourites.
To be honest, given how far they've pushed them, I think it's quite cut and shut. Particularly, I think it will be Lower Breck to go up, but I envisage a Lower Breck Padiham final, and I do see it being quite a tough one. I think there may only be sort of a goal or 2 in it. I don't think Lower Breck will canter to it in nearly the same way. The
only thing I'd say to you, I think I said it the other week, that when we were going neck to neck with toe to toe with Chester, we got pipped. It was a case of after the Lord Mayor's show going into everything is quite flat when you miss out, and it depends how close they come at the end of the season. Because things could change, and listen, we'll talk about how it might change when Bury play Cheadle. We'll talk about that later, though.
We certainly will.
So Division 1 South. Now Winsford were crowned champions Tuesday night when they beat Cheadle Heath Nomads 4-0 in front of an expectant crowd of 481.
It's a big crowd in the South Division.
It's huge. It's always good to win the title at home, but
style as well.
But we won't say too much now. As alluded to at the top of the show, we'll be joined by Dean Jones, the joint manager of
Winsford.
Winsford, indeed. Yeah. So we'll move on to Stafford. Stafford, who will have to settle for the playoffs, but there's still a chance that Abbey Hulton United could grab the runners-up spot as they beat Stafford 1-0 on Tuesday night. The only other issue to resolve is between Asheville and Eccleshall, but with a 4-point advantage, Eccleshall appear to have their hands on that final playoff spot.
Yeah, they do. For Stafford, I can understand why they've taken their eye off the ball a little bit. You know, Winsford have been crowned champions, but Stafford have secured the playoffs, already. But on Saturday, just gone the 29th, Stafford actually reached the Macron Cup final by beating AFC Blackpool 2-0 at the Mechanics Stadium. So they'll play Charnock Richard, who won their semi-final against Barnton, which will be a terrific showdown between 2 teams that I don't think either of us expected to get to the Macron Cup final. Charnock Richard in the Premier Division haven't challenged for the title. Stafford Town have challenged for the title, but in a lower division. So they've both got their eyes on silverware, and maybe that's why their domestic form has kind of tailed off in recent games.
Yeah, looking good, isn't it? Anyway,
it certainly is.
Looking exciting. Do we know where the final is?
We do not.
No. I was going to find out, but I'm glad you mentioned it actually, because it didn't put it in my notes. It had a mental note, and sometimes my mental notes don't. I don't remember my mental notes.
Oh, it's perfectly fine.
So it's good that you've done that.
Yeah.
So we go to the bottom of the league, and Shawbury United and Wolverhampton Sporting Community look likely to finish in the bottom spots as they're 4 points adrift of the 15th place.
Yeah, so there's 18 teams in the Southern Division, which means 34. Which means 34 games each. So with that in mind, every team in there, bar one, has played 31 games. So there's only 6 points left to grab, and there's a 4-point gap between Allscott Heath and both Shawbury and Wolves. So you would imagine that if Allscott Heath get anything from their upcoming game, then it's almost likely that the writing is on the wall. So who have they got to play? They're away at New Mills this weekend. So with New Mills not having the most consistent of form recently, it's probably a good time to go and see them. Yeah, New Mills 4 straight losses out of. 3 straight losses, but 5 out of their last 6. It's a really poor time to play them, whereas Allscott Heath are unbeaten in their last 3 games. So it could very well be that the Southern Division at top and bottom is settled by this weekend.
Yeah. Moving on to Division 1 North, with a 5 points advantage over Nelson. Only a catastrophic failure would prevent Everton LR from winning the league, but it's been quite a week for LR, beating Nelson at a crucial stage and winning their game in hand at Droylsden on Tuesday. It was at home against Droylsden, in front of a nice big crowd of 417.
Yeah,
I have said from the beginning of the season, showing their form, we were expecting them to be better supported. They finally seem to be getting that support. Let's hope it sticks with them.
Well, we know that Droylsden can carry a decent crowd with them wherever they go, and it seems like on a Tuesday night as well, they may very well have carried a good chunk over to Atherton. It's not particularly far; it's East Manchester to West Manchester, really. So it's not far. No. That being said, when we went to Atherton a couple of weeks ago, I think there was 220 there. I think it may have only been a dozen or so of our supporters that went along, maybe a little bit more. So they can command a good crowd, and they're right in the heart of a literal community, a community hub, if you like. There's a train station just around the corner, so they are really well placed for it. It was a bit of a bugger to get there via sat-nav, but once you do get there, their facilities are amazing. But I think Davy Jones will be incredibly impressed with that one, not only for the having negotiated the hurdles of both Nelson and Droylsden, but actually managing to do it whilst keeping 2 clean sheets as well. I think even more so given that Joe Bickerstaff, the Atherton goalkeeper, saved a penalty from Droylsden on Tuesday night when the game was at 0-0, and then made a string of really good saves when it was 1-0. They took an early lead, did Atherton LR, and then holding on to it, they really would have had to stretch. But I think the victory over Nelson is all the more important for the fact that, again, they managed to keep out 2 of the league's highest goal scorers in Max Kane and Charlie Frost, who is still only 1 goal away from securing the record for the most goals in a domestic season at this level. So to shut him out was absolutely amazing, very much in the driver's seat, and I think they're destined to go up. And they've got a cup final of their own, the Edward Case Cup. They're in the final of that.
Yeah. So I imagine Nelson would be left licking the wounds, but it has to be said they put in an impressive winning streak of 9 consecutive league wins, scoring an incredible 32 goals to get themselves into what appeared to be an unlikely scenario at one stage. They've done really, really well.
They certainly have, yeah. So as we know, or as regular knowledge people of the Northwest Counties will know, Nelson were reprieved from relegation at the end of last season, and then were the benefactors of a major financial takeover, which has seen their squad undergo a bit of an upheaval from top through to bottom. I think they initially had stars in their eyes. They'd managed to secure the signing early on in the season of Tsffs Gonzalez, who's quite well known in the upper echelons of non-league football, sort of in National League North and the Northern Premier League West, etc. But he left, and they now seem to have a very established, settled squad. Right through the 11 and the bench, and I think they may well be joined by Droylsden, Holker Old Boys at the very least, and either one of Darwen or Exton, which is still to be confirmed. But I think you have to say that they are probably the firm favourites to go up alongside LR.
Yeah, well, they're making hard work of it. We're talking about Exton. Yeah, they got battered at home to Route 1 Rovers.
That's madness.
Zachariah Khan scored a hat-trick in their 3-1 home defeat.
Yeah, he did.
A bizarre result, really.
It's not one that I saw coming, and I think when we did the predictions last week, it's not one that you saw coming either. I mean, all the goals were scored inside 32 minutes. Zachary Khan, as you already said, scored the first goal after 6 minutes. The equaliser came very quickly, but then 2 more goals from Khan after a quarter of an hour and then half an hour proved the difference between the two teams. In front of a very low capacity crowd, I must say, of 101 people. Now, we went to Exton Villa. We also went on a Tuesday night and played out in front of... Oh, was it Friday?
It was a Friday, yeah. That's why it was a bumper gate.
Right, so in front of 400 and odd people, but you would think with the facilities and the openness. Exton Villa are massive for being a feeder club for the local college next door, which is Runshaw, and then they've got links to Leyland and Chorley as well. And allegedly, I was told this by my best friend who went to Runshaw, if you are a prospective football player at that level, you are wanting to be touted by Exton Villa because there's such an enormous institute of football in this area. And I certainly would have thought they'd have brought in a bigger crowd for that one. We know that given geographically where Route 1 are, they wouldn't have brought a big one, a big contingent.
I just don't think you'd always get what you want at this level, do you? I keep going on about it, but when Skem won the title back in 2013, was it 14? Their gates went down.
Yeah,
bizarrely.
It is really bizarre, but this is mid-season, man. Like, the momentum is still there, the hype is still there. So I would have thought that more would have been done from Exton, but they're still very much in that last playoff position, but they are 4 points ahead of Darwin with 2 games to play. You have to feel that any result that they get either which way or at the weekend, and that would kind of secure them the last playoff spot.
Darwin have been amazing, haven't they? Really,
Darwin are quite incredible.
They've had that incredible run, and it just looks as though they're going to fall short.
Yeah. They pulled in the transfers that they needed just a little bit too late, it would seem. But they've had 2 amazing results in themselves. Obviously, beating Nelson first of all in that massive El Hot Pot derby last weekend, and then they followed that up this weekend, just gone, when they who did they play? Pardon me, I'll just talk amongst yourselves. I'll get that.
Nice. Come to us, sure.
It was Ashton Town. They beat Ashton Town 2-0 away.
At their place as well.
At Ashton as well. So they're on a really good run. They're doing the business that they needed to do, but it's just come a little too late, I think.
Yeah. So coming to us, not much fun at all. 2 back-to-back defeats at home.
Yes.
Lacklustre display against Thornton Cleveland's losing 3-0. Bizarrely, it was a much better display against Daisy Hill, but we still lost 5-0. Unfortunately, I think the Achilles heel is the fact that we can't score goals.
I'm afraid so. Yeah, so we haven't scored since that 2-1 win against Garstang, and those 2 goals actually made up about nearly a fifth of all our goals scored this season, which is obviously desperately disappointing, and we know it is. We're fully aware of our shortcomings in front of goal. I think the boys obviously have they may well say that they switched off, or that Daisy Hill just smelt blood. I mean, it wasn't ideal that we came into the game with quite a few injuries. Sheikh Islam, Christian Masima were both injured, and then during the game as well, a really nasty bang on the head to Saeed Shehu, which means he will, in all likelihood, miss the last 2 games of the season. It's a bit of a blow.
I think he will, yeah.
Yeah, so our squad is did take a bit of a hit there.
Well, we're going to be down to the sort of bones of it on Saturday. We'll come to that at the end of the game, but it's not been great. But I don't think the 5-0 defeat against Daisy Hill was sort of true reflection of the game. I think we played fairly well. We
started really well in that game. We were on the front foot. We were getting
corners in the first 2 minutes.
We were getting the crosses in. Having Peter Smith back, who's a set piece specialist in his own right, was really helpful. Unfortunately, the momentum dropped when we conceded the first goal after 9 minutes, and then it was a very brutal 5-minute period when Daisy Hill scored 3 goals. Which just kind of left us on our backs, unfortunately, and then they scored their 5th just prior to the final whistle going. It was deeply disappointing.
I felt as though the heads went down after Luke Nichols had scored the second goal, and you could visibly see it, and there was no way back, and certainly no way back. We talk about centre forwards; they come at a premium. There's not many of them knocking about. It's been very, very, because bizarrely the way the season's panned out in terms of the fixtures. We're almost relegated before Christmas in many ways. So when you look into replenish or improve the squad, very, very difficult to get a centre forward to come to it. Teams
just don't want to go to clubs that are losing. Unfortunately, no. So.
Not a statistic that we want to associate ourselves with, but our defeat to Thornton Cleveland's was our 200th at home from 536 games in the North West Counties Football League. Something that the North West Counties reminded us of.
Oh, that's helpful of them. Unfortunately, I think we knew we were in for a really tough season this season. But obviously that's not a statistic that we would like to have been associated with, but I think it's a statistic that befalls a lot of teams that are around this area and have been for many years now, as indeed we have been. So it's going to come to everybody sooner or later. It was just this was our turn, unfortunately.
And just to finish off with Skem, in terms of the podcast last week, the special episode where you interviewed me, you had any sort of feedback from that at all?
So, only really in gifts and spurts, to be honest. Nobody has mentioned anything on the social media sites in regards to the follow-up of it, although there is a lot less noise from the naysayers anyway, so I wonder whether their minds have been put at ease, but they just don't want to say. Had some very positive feedback from some regular fans who come and turn out for us every week. They were very grateful for certain points being raised, particularly the notion of being able to assist other fans in getting there, as being a community outlay where fans, will struggle to make that trip across to Crosby. I did actually make that trip to Crosby by myself on a Friday evening, and it was it wasn't the nicest journey, particularly when you get to the island, so to speak. Yeah, that wasn't.
It
nice.
can be a bit of a bottleneck, can't it?
Yeah, it can.
But there are various little routes you can.
Yeah, 100%, and I think we'll iron those out as we start to look more into the logistics of it all. But otherwise,
we'll speak to Tommy on that one, because Tommy, being the ex-manager there, probably knows all routes into Marine or Crosby.
Exactly.
Where it is.
But otherwise, it was quite positive. I think people felt that we addressed all the issues that were burning in the back of their minds, and we hope very much that this has kind of settled questions from people. But obviously, our doors are always open, so feel free to ask any questions that may be burning.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to think that's the case. I spoke to quite a few people, put them at rest, people that wanted to ask further questions, explained it to them.
Okay.
I think most of them understand. It's going to be difficult for a lot of people, but like we've said, we're going to try and come up with a plan where we can make sure that as many supporters can get to away games, any away game, never mind the ones that are going to be in Crosby, and hopefully I'm going to be having conversations with the West Lancashire Borough Council in the next few weeks to discuss the possibility of finding a piece of land in Skem. The sort of short to long term plan is to make sure that we're back in Skem, and that suits everyone then.
Still our priority, isn't it?
Yeah, that's I think the important thing, and if anything was lost in translation, was the fact that we are determined to get back to Skem. That's a given.
Yeah.
So anyway, listen, we'll move on to other news.
Yes.
Marine AFC, our new landlords, are now officially safe following Needham Market's 3-2 defeat at home to Cares and Ashton.
Yeah.
In their current form, Neil Young's side could finish in the top half of the table. So an incredible achievement, considering they were bottom of the league back in February.
It's quite a stunning turnaround, and I think all from Marine will be absolutely ecstatic that they've secured their place in the league for another year. What's more amazing about this one is that they've now sequenced together, I think it's 9 games unbeaten. They are, with over half of those culminating in clean sheets as well. They're not winning by 4 or 5 goals. They're not winning at a canter, but they're grinding out good, solid results from nearly every single game, whether it's 0-0, 1-0, 2-0. They're always managing to find a way to score, whilst always trying to remain robust at the back. And I think they've done a brilliant job there, and I think it's a good springboard for them to kind of go into next season with a renewed possibility that they can finish in the top half and start building on that.
Yeah. Not so much look for Rushall and Warrington Town. They're still in there with Needham and Farsley Celtic, who we talked about quite often during the series. They've been relegated finally. They
have been relegated finally, yes. So they lost 3-1 away at I think it may have been Rushall Olympic. I'm not 100% sure, but apparently it was a game that had a certain inevitability about it, the outcome, but it was one where the supporters and everyone associated would very much hope that Farsley Celtic would go down fighting. And indeed, it seems like they did do. I've not seen any of the highlights or footage from it, but I'm led to believe that the players who were patched together from loan signings and youth promotions did the club proud that day.
I think it's David Stockdale is the manager there. I
think he's still in charge, isn't he?
Yeah, he's doing reasonably well there, isn't he, by the sounds of things. But I don't know whether you read it or have dreamt it up. Farsley, the ground situation. I don't think it's been completed, has it?
I've not heard anything in regards to that, unfortunately.
I think they've had a grading visit, but I don't know whether the actual pitch itself is part of the grading. It might not be. I don't think it is, actually.
I don't think it is, but hasn't the Citadel only got 3 sides to it? Because the part of the grading for the stand and the stadium is that you can't have free exposure from any side of it. So if you were to look at it, you wouldn't be able to watch the game for free. I think that's part of the grade.
I didn't know that was expert. It must have already been fit for purpose. And certainly now that they're getting relegated back to the the Northwest not the Northwest Counties, the Northern Premier League.
Yeah.
I would imagine the grading criteria is slightly less.
Yeah, so it may very well be that they could end up going back to Farsley or neighbouring communities like Leeds or Bradford or Harrogate. Not Harrogate, that's East Yorkshire, but somewhere in the vicinity of their West Yorkshire route, so they don't have to make that long trip down to Buxton just for home games. You would certainly hope so.
Yeah. Listen, if we assume that they've passed, I don't think the ground will be an issue. They're waiting for, I think, Football Foundation help to replace the pitch. So hopefully they'll get all that done. In the meantime, like you said, they could probably ground share a little bit closer. One assumes they've got a ground share in place. I don't know.
But if you are a fan or in the know with Farsley Celtic, please let us know, and then we'll mention it on the show next week.
Radcliffe and Southport need to do a little bit more to avoid getting dragged into that bottom four, but I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Southport definitely.
So Southport, I think they lost at the weekend.
They're not doing particularly well.
They
at the moment,
are not. No, well they're still without a full-time manager, aren't they? Nobody's been confirmed. After the sacking of Bentley a couple of weeks ago, which we discussed. So it seems like their form is still inconsistent with that. I think on the whole, they will be safe, but I think it's a very uninspiring end to what has been a bit of a topsy-turvy season for Southport, and they're going to need a bit of a rebuild, a lot of a rebuild in the summer.
Yeah, and just looking at the top, I know we don't really discuss the National League North very much, but Scunthorpe United are top in the league. They've got a 2-point lead over Kidderminster Harriers.
Yes.
And third place is Brackley Town, but then if you look at the rest of the playoff positions, Chester, Chorley and Curzon, nice sort of northwestern mixture.
Yeah, very much so.
I thought Chester were going to do better actually at the one stage. I think they were the top of the league.
They certainly were, yeah, and it looked like Scunthorpe may have been that team that were battling within the midst of the Northwest boys in the playoffs. But Scunthorpe have had a brilliant turnaround in form. They were heavy winners at the weekend. I can't remember who they played. It may have been Kidderminster. I'm not 100% sure, but they almost seem certain for the title now. I think a lot of Iron fans are quite confident that they will go back up into the National League proper.
It's an incredibly tough division, that, Scunthorpe United. And we're talking about all ex-Football League teams here.
Yeah.
Scunthorpe, Kidderminster, Chester, of course, way back, Hereford, Darlington, Scarborough.
All mid-table teams right now.
Crikey. Yeah, what a table.
It is quite incredible, really. I mean, I saw and had a bit of a discussion with the volunteers set up at Chorley, because I was there at the weekend for their open day, fan zone open day, if you like.
Booze up.
The booze up for the Aston Villa fans who were on their way up to Preston North End for the Cup quarterfinals. And what they're saying is that they have an awful lot of sponsorship. A lot of sponsorship. I mean, I think for the main amount of sponsorship that we have, which I think is about 7 major sponsors, they have the exact same number of sponsors just plastered along the top stand of their behind the goal stand. So they have an awful lot of beneficiaries from other environments as well. Not as well counting that they have 10 regular investors into the club who pay a 4-figure sum every single month.
Well, that's what we said about Scam United Football Club, isn't it? There's scope there for anybody to come in and become a stakeholder. We've got this 21 club, which gives people that are interested in finding out what goes on behind the scenes a closer look to be part of it, and also receive top-notch hospitality. But so far we've got 2 members, so we need
We're on the way.
We need to move. We need to get bigger and better on that one.
We do need to get bigger and better, but we promise you the hospitality. We are top of the league for that.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. And listen, I don't just say that because it's my wife that does it. But
I don't need to say it, but it's incredible.
Yeah,
it really is. Now then, we're going to move on to the controversial stuff, and we're going to start in the North West Counties Premier Division with Bury. Now,
well, I wasn't going to mention this one. It was you that brought it up either today or yesterday, because I thought it was a little bit of a non-story, but it's created a bit of a...
Well, I think it is a bit of a discussion in its own right.
It is now, because we're talking about it.
Exactly. So here's what is happening. So Bury go to play Cheadle Town in one of their penultimate games a week on Saturday. Now, the game has been switched to FC United of Manchester's Broadhurst Park, which is a purpose-built, fully enclosed stadium. Yeah, which can hold about 6,000-7,000 fans, something along them lines. It's enormous.
6, I think, yeah.
By contrast, Cheadle Town Stadium can only accommodate 1,000 people. Now, we're not 100% sure who has authorised or instructed the move, but it appears to have been done in accordance with police instruction over safety concerns. Now, it has divided fans. Some people are saying that it gives Bury an advantage over closer rivals Lower Breck, with a better playing surface and a much larger crowd, which would effectively turn an away game into a home game. Now, some have argued that had it been played at Cheadle, Bury supporters would still have outnumbered Cheadle supporters by 10-1. Now, this may be true, but Cheadle have agreed to it, for one, and for two, they're expecting an enormously healthy crowd, which would financially benefit Cheadle as the home team, in inverted commas. Now then.
Well, the North West counties must have sanctioned the switch, and we assume in accordance with the police. What I would say from a safety perspective, you can't really argue, because I would imagine that being the possibility that they could actually win the title there. Yeah. I would imagine anywhere between 3,000 and 4,000 supporters might want to gate crash the game.
Well, particularly when there is a small chance that Bury could win the league.
Well, listen, I don't think 3,000 or 4,000 people are going to turn up, but what I have been told is there's a possibility anywhere between 300 and 400 people had threatened to be there to join in with the celebrations. So, based on that alone, the police, the league, and both clubs have observed that safety must come first, which I totally endorse.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about fan integration. We've talked about the environment being suitable for large numbers of fans. Obviously, we've witnessed it at lower level and very notably at higher level, where a stadium simply can't accommodate the number of fans. We know how dangerous it can be. So I do understand. I think what would be helpful is if Cheadle fans, as the home team, were given priority tickets or priority options.
Well, they're selling the tickets, so they will have the priority.
They certainly are, but Bury fans are more than entitled to purchase as well. Or you can't.
I don't think they're going to achieve a gate in excess of what they get at home anyway, are they?
I wonder, because Cheadle is only down towards Stockport and Bury is obviously very North Manchester, so it's not a difficult trek, in the same way that if it would be if they were playing.
They've played there before, haven't they, and not had much success, but I think the ground shared there on one occasion.
They may well have done.
And I don't know what kind of crowd they had back there, but listen, I read another argument stating that if you base advantage purely on gates, you'd have to reduce Bury's home capacity to make it a more level playing field.
Well, if you were going to do that, you'd have to reduce Bury's capacity by about 90%, given the extraordinary numbers that they command at Gig Lane.
So I don't really think the argument stands up that they get an advantage through the crowd.
No, maybe not, but
nobody's expecting Cheadle to win this game anyway.
No, I don't think they are, but they could certainly do something. I mean, you never know. You just never know at this league. I know Lower Breck and Bury are absolutely cantering, in recent days, and in fact over the long period, both of them are in incredible form. But you never say never, do you?
But listen, it's not over until the fat balloon starts to
shake us.
Lose air, you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's possible. I also wonder whether Cheadle would be adaptable in playing on at Broadhurst Park. Have they got the same kind of pitch? Did Cheadle have a grass pitch where Broadhurst Park? I know Broadhurst Park doesn't. But what kind of pitch did Cheadle play on? Will that play a factor?
Well, I think the one argument was that the playing surface wouldn't suit Derry, but who knows? But listen, I don't think it really matters. I think there's a lot more to be. It'd be interesting to see how the rest of the season pans out with those 3 games. But I think there's more stories to come.
Yes, there probably is.
Yeah.
Now then, Avro.
Yeah, well, listen, I was completely shocked by this because we look at a team that currently has the best form with 5 consecutive wins, sitting in 6th place. They're only 4 points from the playoff positions with 5 games left.
Yep.
Avro have switched off their comments section on X, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it.
Why have they done that?
Well, one would assume they're taking a fair bit of stick for making the decision in the first place, particularly at a crucial stage.
Frank, what's the decision? You've not told us.
Have I not told you what the decision is?
What's the decision, Frank?
Go on, you tell me.
They've sacked David Birch and Michael Norton, the joint managers. That's what's happened. So Avro, best team in the league on current form, 6th place, 4 points outside the playoffs. They're into the Phoenix Trophy semi-final as well. And they've sacked their managers.
All right, I forgot to tell you that, didn't I?
What the hell is going on?
So David Birch and Mike Norton, who are the joint managers, listen, they've gone on social media and they've wished the club the best of luck. There's an awful lot of innuendo flying around, as you would expect. Listen, there's a story. There's always a story on the flip side as well, so the club will have their own reasons for it, but when you switch your notices off and nobody's telling you what's happened, well,
it's
the
really not
speculation is
helpful.
going to continue.
Exactly, yeah. So Avro aren't actually consistent and active on Facebook or Instagram. It's only on their Twitter X channel with which they are consistent, and they confirmed that they've parted ways with David Birch and Michael Norton, as well as the first team coach Neil Jackson, all of whom have only been there over the last 9 months. And then to switch off their comment section, not only on that post, but also on all of their posts on X as well. Now, clearly they don't want anybody talking about it or, making accusatory statements or assumptions or anything like that, but there absolutely is a story, and I think at some point Birch, Norton or Jackson may well come out and say exactly what happened. We certainly hope that they do, but they've now, whoever comes in now has got to pick up an Avro team who have had the wind taken out of their sails right in the midst of an extremely crucial part of their season with no idea why.
No, we've seen this a few times this season, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Senseless or seemingly senseless decisions that have been made.
Yeah, I mean, we had one of our own on the show 3 weeks ago, Paul McNally.
Yeah, I suppose the difference is they were bottom of the league.
They were absolutely bottom.
So that makes a difference. But then,
who on earth was going to turn that around? I mean,
with a limited budget and playing away from home every single game.
Yeah,
paying allegedly £2,000 per game, £3,000 for bank holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to have an effect on your playing budget. There's no doubt about that.
Yep.
So listen, this is a story that might start
bubbling.
Yeah, bubbling.
I think so. Yeah.
Might just get David Birch and Michael Norton on the show.
That would be.
Although
really
I don't think anybody wants to speak at the moment, do they?
No, I mean, when you've just been fired as manager or you've parted ways, should I say, then it's never ever the time to start speaking ill. Particularly when you may be looking for a new manager, a new job. Yeah, absolutely. But they're not saying anymore. They've moved up very quickly to discussions on the next game, which is away at Nantwich Town. So it looks like they're not saying anything at the minute, really. It's a shame.
And a little bit like the sort of Kane Duncan story, the bloke that we interviewed last week.
Yep.
Nothing at all on social media.
No, he's not been announced for...
I was going to message him today and ask where he was, but...
Quite clearly, if he's not made a statement, you would assume that there's been no movement.
No,
I think that's the case.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, we'll leave the first part of the show. We'll go into a commercial break, and after the commercial break, we'll welcome Dean Jones, who's the joint manager at Winsford United, to talk about their Division 1 South title win back on Tuesday. So we'll see you after the break.
Certainly will.
Bye for now. Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club: Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions, and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles, and the lottery bonus ball scheme. And, of course, the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Bergquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Hello and welcome to the second part of the Speaking Frankly Football Show, and a warm welcome to Winsford United's joint manager, Dean Jones. Warm welcome to you.
Thanks, gents. Yeah, well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, listen, you clinched the North West Counties Division 1 title in style with an emphatic 4-0 win over Cheadle Heath Nomads on Tuesday night. It's a pity Dom can't join us due to work commitments. We always ask how the dynamics work in a joint management situation. How do you and Dom rub along?
Yeah, well, as you can see, he leaves me to do all the hard work, basically.
Yes.
No, we've quite similar to what you've probably heard with other joint managers. Me and Dom are good personal friends. Grew up together, played football together through our own youth ranks and into adult football. We see football borderline identically. We don't really clash over what we see as the right way to go about things and what our expectations are. So it's actually really straightforward. We obviously have our own individual strengths. I'm probably more of the shouter, if you like, and Dom's a little bit more of the arm around the shoulder type. So
you've listened to one of our previous shows.
Yeah, indeed. I listen every week, to be fair, gents. It's a great show. Yeah,
I really appreciate it.
That's really kind.
No, it's it's brilliant. We've managed together now for I don't know, must be going on 10 plus years. And touch wood, we seem to be doing a half decent job wherever we've been.
Certainly seems like it. Was it always like that? Did you immediately just click as co-managers, or did it take you a little time to work through, understanding how each other works?
No, not really. Yeah, we were probably fortunate. I say fortunate. It's one of those that me and Dom both stopped playing relatively early, basically both due to injuries. And we, at the same sort of point where we'd reached the stage that it was just becoming unbearable in terms of trying to get on the pitch and play at any sort of competitive level, that we both decided. Dom took the job originally at Lostock, Greyland, which is where we started out. I was actually still playing at Lostock when he got the job. And he rang me up and said, I'd really like you to come in with me. And we sort of took it on from there. We both still played a little bit in that first season or two, but it's really hard to play and manage. And then, as we progressed through the leagues, we both naturally sort of slipped into the full management role, and it just seems to have worked.
Yeah, it's worth noting at this stage that you're both 35 years of age, relatively young management duo, which seems to be a bit of a growing theme within non-league football.
Yeah, indeed. We're a few years older than. Is it Dave Jones who's at
Dave Jones,
Avro?
25, something like
He's
that.
doing a cracking job as well. So if things carry on the way, because they've had 2 cracking results the last week or so, I think they're on for the North title. So I believe we'll actually play each other in a divisional championship game on the 19th. So
all right, we'll have to get
I'll
along
really
and
look
watch that
forward
one.
to that. I look forward to it. So yeah, we are both relatively young in management terms, I suppose, and you do see it a little bit more now than maybe as years gone by. It was maybe not so much a common thing.
Yeah. So listen, 2 years ago, Winsford took voluntary relegation to the Division 1 South to preserve their North West County status after being laterally moved by the FA. This happened a year before you came to the club. You've had time to absorb the fact, and no doubt you'll have been made aware of the disappointment that the chairman, board and supporters have felt since that decision was made. So one would imagine now that the club is back to where it belongs, it's also a bittersweet moment for the club to go through the process in the first place.
Yeah, so the sort of background that makes it slightly different is the board who made the original decision to take voluntary relegation. Has now moved on, and it's a new board. So I didn't work under the previous board or regime, and everything that was made at that point in time, decision wise, I'm sure was based on what they believed to be the right thing for the club and its future. But we were well versed that if things did go well this year, it was likely, if we did manage to achieve promotion, that would mean the Midlands is a more likely destination than the Premier Division, which is a shame in a lot of ways, but also maybe an opportunity in other ways when you look at the likes of what Congleton have done through that pathway. So yeah, it is a little bit bittersweet. It's not an ideal scenario, but by the same token, we from our perspective, our job was to pick the club back up and try and see if we can move it in the right direction. If that means we have to accept a move into Midlands territory and deal with the challenges that will inevitably bring, then we and the new board are prepared to take that on.
Has this been discussed with the players at all, the possibility of lateral movement? Have they sort of voiced any opinions on it?
Yeah, so we've been fairly open, and as I'm sure you'll understand, players talk to each other and everything else that goes on. Me and Dom tend to have a pretty straightforward philosophy of, we will speak the truth even if it upsets a couple. And deal with the ramifications from there. We've been open with them. We've explained what the long-term objectives are, where we want to get the club back to. And ultimately, in any of those journeys, there's some sacrifice that has to be given. The club will try and balance that with helping out with things like the travel where we can. But ultimately, the way we look at it is if these lads are now part of what's been a very successful season, it's something that 9 times out of 10 good players will value that success on the pitch and enjoyment as a team. And if that means there's some trade-off in terms of travel and logistics, then I think everyone's on board to take it on.
Is there a great deal of difference in terms of mileage moving across?
It's not enormous. Do you know what it is? It's it's a lot easier for me. In my day job, I travel all over the country. So travel to me is a bit of it doesn't make any difference whether I'm driving for an hour or 2 hours. It's just really normal. You just get used to it like anything. It's a bit of one of those, really. The title of Midlands League isn't probably, if you actually look at the teams in there, it's not what you might think of immediately as a Midlands territory. It's, Northwich Victoria are playing in that league now. 1874 Northwich are playing in that league now. They're both, less than 5 miles from us. Whitchurch Outport are playing in there. They're not far away at all. So by the time you actually weigh it all up, there are a couple of longer journeys, but there are also a lot of shorter journeys. And and it's not actually a huge difference. It's probably 10%, something like that. I think it's just getting over the initial sort of stigma, or what stands out as, it's Midlands, it's going to be something completely bizarre. But actually, when you break it down, it's not too big of a deal, in my opinion.
So I've been calling you a Warrington-based club for the last 6 months. You're nowhere near Warrington now, are you?
We're not. No,
oh, balls.
Right.
Well, I was going to mention that because we spoke off mic and you were really, really embarrassed about that, AJ.
I am still really embarrassed about it, but it's a good comedy perspective to the show.
Yeah, it's an honest mistake. It did tickle me, as I say, when I listened, and you'd throw that in occasionally. It made me laugh. It's no harm done.
Right, that's fine. I'll call you a crew-based club from now on if you're holding that postcode.
I know you mentioned the logistical side of things there, but in terms of the strength within the Midlands Premier compared to the North West Counties Premier Division, do you see a great deal of difference?
Yeah, it's hard to comment with any sort of concrete position on it, but the case I would use in point is last season Brockton won our South Division, and obviously we played against Brockton all season in the league and cups, and they were a very good team, by the way, and they've moved into the Midlands Prem, and they're currently in the playoff position in that league, and then obviously I know we know lots of people involved in Premier Division clubs. And you look at the top of the league, and there's 3 teams that could achieve 100 points, and you start to think, "Wow, that's an incredible task to try and reach the summit of that." When you look at the likes of Bury and Ramsbottom and Padiham and teams of that nature and resources, it's naturally going to be a huge challenge. And I think the case in point for Winsford is I look at Congleton, who were North West Counties Premier for a good fair few years, would always do okay and achieve just maybe sort of 6th, 7th territory, and then stepped into the Midlands Premier and managed to win that league within a season, or maybe 2, I could be wrong, but definitely within 1 or 2 seasons. And they're now back in the West Division of the Northern Premier League. So it's hard to say because I'm not familiar with who that Midland Division week in, week out, and I don't want to be unfair or critical of something that I can't really comment on. But even if you just take the sheer volume of games, and what's the Premier Division now? 24 teams?
Yes. 24, yeah.
So you're playing, what's that? 46 league games plus your cups plus.
There's only 18 teams, isn't there, in the Midlands Premier?
So even that, you take into account
it can work both ways. That's stress. Sorry.
Yeah, no, not.
I was just going to say that could work both ways, though, couldn't it? Because it's not been sort of really advantageous to us in terms of Skelmersdale United. We're in a division of 18 teams, and our season was 2/3 the way through before Christmas.
Yeah. No, you're right. It can go the other way, and we're the same. The South Division's 18 teams. We were probably fortunate that we had a good FA Vars run. We had a good run in pretty much all the cups, and that managed to keep the season fixtures week in, week out until probably around January time, which in turn has actually allowed us to just concentrate 100% on the league without enormous pressure on the squad. Saturday, Tuesday, maybe even some game weeks with 3 games. And I just think if you balance that against if you're trying to win the league, all of a sudden an extra 12 games on your schedule to go and compete at the highest point possible adds a strain onto your squad. So if you've got the resources to deal with that and support it, fair enough. But a lot of clubs haven't, and I'm sure you've seen yourselves. If you lose 1 or 2 good players or your best player, it makes a big difference, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And replacing those lads is easier said than done. Everyone's in a competitive environment and fighting for. I recall listening to one of your episodes about the 7-day approach scenarios.
Yeah,
I can tell you now, we've been we've been fortunate in the sense of the group has stuck together on the whole. We only really lost one player that we were desperate not to, but we've had approaches for, I would say, a good majority of the squad throughout the season, some of which have had 5-6 approaches. And it is really difficult to keep it all together. So, yeah, in answer to your question, I think both leagues provide their own challenges, but I'm of the mindset when I look at the evidence of Brockton, Congleton, that maybe the Midlands Premier is a route that can get us a step closer to step 4.
I think it's largely accepted, isn't it? It's probably the easier route. But listen, let's go back almost 12 months when you left. When you both left Alsager, was your intentions always to leave at the end of the 2023-24 season?
Oh no, quite the opposite, to be honest. So we remain very grateful to Alsager. They gave us our first opportunity in North West Counties football and Step 6, coming after we'd been at Lostock for 7-8 years. We'd hit the ceiling as far as the club and their infrastructure and was able to go. And Alsager were the first Step 6 club to take a chance on us, really, and we were extremely grateful for that. The first season was very much where almost like a Runcorn Town situation this year. They were really struggling at the bottom, and we had to try and just survive, which we managed to do with a game or two to spare. So that was good. And then last season, before we left, we were just outside the playoffs, and we just fell short, with basically what we could do with the resources, and we were focusing entirely at the end of the season on. We lost in the Macron Cup semi-final away at Barnoldswick, which was a tough one to take, but they were a good side, and we had no intention of leaving. We were planning very much on how can we go that next one step and maybe get to the playoffs. And pretty much out of the blue, Winsford got in touch to ask to talk to us.
Yeah. Listen, moving to another club's always difficult, particularly at non-league level. I believe you took 13 Alsager players with you when you left, which is fair dinkum, really, because that's what happens at non-league level.
Well, yeah, it's one of those that when we took over Alsager, bearing in mind, I think we were second bottom. We had one player left in the squad when we came in. So the rest had decided they were moving on, leaving for whatever, for their own reasons. So we pretty much built that squad at Alsager from scratch. And the reality is the relationships and understanding and development of players and as a team had happened over a good season and a half. And when the Winsford job came up, the backdrop to that is I live in Winsford. I'm a Winsford lad. Dom's also was born in Winsford, lives very locally. And actually a good core of our team at Alsager were local lads to Winsford, Northwich area. So that was one of the big reasons to make the decision. And to be fair, that relationship with that group of players was very strong, and the opportunity to move was their choice, really. Alsager appointed a strong management team fairly quickly, and
I was going to say that in fairness,
they took a good portion of Winsford's previous squad with them as well, so it was a bit of a weird switch around.
Well, I was going to say, in fairness, it didn't really affect Alsager at that particular stage, because the irony of the situation is the first game that you played was against Alsager and you lost.
I was actually in Spain, so I can.
It was Dom's fault.
Damn it, Dom.
No, yeah, I can say that. He's not here to defend himself.
Yeah.
It was, and amazingly, in the irony of football, we play Alsager away on our final day.
I know. I was just going to say that. Yeah. The words out of my mouth.
Opening day and closing day for us.
What an absolute bookender that is.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? But listen, Alsager is a fantastic club. Terry Greer, the chairman, Kenny, the whole people behind. They're a fantastic bunch of people. They operate within their own resources. There's no hairs and graces, and We want them to succeed as best as any other club for sure. They did. They started like a house on fire, and to be honest, they brought in some really good players who very quickly got snapped up into higher divisions. And then obviously they've had their own change around as well, which has seen a bit of a change, but it's still a decent season for them overall.
Yeah. Listen, what we've noticed about your results this season is if you put in this amazingly long sequence where you've dropped very few points, an unbeaten run in the league which stretches back to the end of August last year. I'd be amazed if it could be matched at any other level. 23 games, 19 wins and 4 draws. It's not only impressive, if you can manage to see the season out without losing, it will be a 25-match unbeaten run. How's that happened? What's the secret ingredients?
Yeah, well, if I could give you the secret ingredient, I feel I could make a few quid at this. The truth is, it's been we've had a very consistent and capable squad of players, because as any manager will tell you, you can have, loads of teams can get 11 players on the pitch that are capable to compete with most, if not all, teams. But then, of course, when you pick up your injuries, suspensions, tired legs, just pure fatigue sometimes, people got things going on in the home or personal lives, children being born, weddings, whatever it is, all the challenges that nobody thinks are what part of managing a team is about. And actually having a squad that you can rotate and keep people in competitive nature of building a team, I personally would say that's the difference. The second part of that is, of course, is momentum. You go, you win a game, you win 2 games, you win 3, and all of a sudden winning becomes the expectation, and it becomes something that people just gravitate to. It helps you then attract another player or two to bolster what you've got. And all credit goes to the players, because the mentality to achieve that consistency across. The first thing I said to them when I managed to speak to them eventually after Tuesday night when the league was done, my comments to them were that is insane level of consistency to achieve, and they should be very, very proud of it. And I appreciate your words, and I agree. I'll be surprised if there's another team at semi-professional or any other level that can show they haven't lost a league game since August.
Stafford Town were actually pushing you for a fair bit of the season, weren't they? Sort of going neck to neck with you. And what happened there? What's happened to Stafford?
Really good team, Stafford. Going forward and attacking, they can be frightening on their day. They've got the captain Matt Hersey's a phenomenally effective player. Patrick Maz up front is equally capable. They've got really good attacking threat throughout. I personally think what's probably helped us is where we reached a point in the season where we'd come out of cups at fairly decent stages, but we hadn't gone to the depths of. I would say it's likely that they've had so many plates to spin, because they're in. I think they're in both cup finals, aren't they? Macron and Edward Case.
They're certainly, they actually are.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and
incredible.
And I'm not even sure if they're in another one as well. So I think if you balance where we're focusing entirely 100% on our planning, our research of each opposition at a time, they're having to do that on 2 or 3 fronts, which eventually, if nothing else other than fatigue, that would be my best guess, because they're a good team.
You certainly are. But moving back to yourselves, one stat that I really like to pick up on this one is that in 22 of your games this season, you've scored 3 or more goals. Even in the Lancs Trophy against Tranmere, you scored 3, even though you were on the other end of the result that day.
We'll only talk about the half time there, because we were 3-2 up away at Tranmere Rovers at half time.
Okay, that's amazing.
Which is absolutely. I was just
phenomenal.
At half time. I went into the lads and I said, I don't even know what to say here. This is incredible. And they literally had like 6 or 7 of the first team 11 playing, plus some of the squad players. And they obviously had a conversation at half-time and decided to turn the burners on second half, and wow, it was an experience, I can tell you.
What was the final score, mate?
8-3.
8-3, and we were 3-2 up at half-time.
Yeah. Sometimes football doesn't make sense.
It shows you the chasm. It shows you the chasm, doesn't it, between professional and semi-professional, doesn't it?
Oh, without any shadow of doubt. It was a fantastic experience, but one that really does let you step back and just respect the level that you're at and how far it is to get anywhere near that professional standard.
Which is entirely understandable. So you scored 3 against Tranmere, and then you've scored 3 or more goals in 22 of your games this season. Is attacking like a huge part of your coaching philosophy, or do you just happen to be blessed with multiple players with goal poachers instincts? Yeah,
probably a bit of both. We do play front foot aggressive attacking football. We play fairly high risk football, which makes for probably a entertaining watch for the average person coming and watching a game at Winsford. We accept that there's an element of risk attached to that, but what's worked really well is with our philosophy and tactics of what we're trying to achieve, it's also fitted really well with the squad we've built, and I think what backs that up is we haven't actually got a top goal scorer in the top 5 of the league, but
really?
We have got absolutely. So if you look at the South Division top goal scorers, there's not one player from Winsford, but what we have got is probably, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll bet you there's 7 players in double figures.
Six players, more than 10 goals. Matt Birch, 25, Oliver Pope, 18, Jack Woolley, 16, Elliot Coleman, 13, and Rhys Davison and Brian Robertson, 11 goals each.
It's insane figures.
Absolutely amazing. 94 goals between them.
Yeah, so I think if I then told you, like, for example, Elliot Coleman, what's he on there, 13?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, he plays left wing back.
Oh, right,
so
crikey.
That gives you the idea of... Matty Birch will miss the first 10 games of the season with, sadly, a broken jaw in pre-season.
My God, I didn't know that.
So, he missed the first 10, which is obviously a good chunk. So he may well have been up there, to be fair. But it kind of adds to your point of, we scored 3 or more in those number of games. And the truth is that if you were playing against us right now, me and Dom always look at it and say, if we were playing against ourselves, what would we do? It is a challenge because we have got 5-6 goal scorers across the pitch. So it's not like, you can just keep that player quiet and we'll be okay. There is goals from each wing back all the way across to centre forward through central midfield, and that's worked for us, definitely.
It certainly describes your secret to success, doesn't it, with the question that AJ was asking before.
Well, look, there's been games that it hasn't. We got beat at home in the FA Vars in I think it was the last 32, and we got beat 2-1. And on another day, we could have scored 4 or 5, but it didn't fall for us. And to be fair, they really dug in and made it hard, and they managed to get themselves a win and get out of here. So there has been games where it hasn't 100% gone to plan, but on the whole, and especially in the league, I think we've managed to breathe that confidence into the team that we can take risks because we'll go and score more than the team that's coming and playing us. And it does make for an interesting watch.
Yeah. Listen, you've described Winsford United as a sleeping giant, and I've always had fond memories of playing against your club from Skem's perspective.
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from. How far can the club go? How far can you and Dom go?
Yeah, well, when we met with Winsford, and as I say, the new board, and they're very ambitious. They've got plans to reignite the club, and like most clubs, really re-engage with the community. So, from an outside perspective, as I say, I live in Winsford, and I'm a local lad, and I could tell there was a disconnect, and the club had really just fell out of love with the local community to a certain degree for a number of reasons. But we said if we can re-engage with that, there is a real, there's a real football town in Winsford of people who will get behind the club if things are moving in the right direction and they can see that ambition. Personally, for me and Dom, we set out, we'd like to try and get the club back to step 4 within a 3, 4, 5 year process. Obviously, this year's a fantastic first step. And if we can get to that level, I think that's where we would need to, reassess. Okay, what's potentially next? But there's a lot of work to be done. I'm keen to point out.
Yeah. What are your hopes for next season then? Because without knowing which division you're going to be in or which league you're going to be in, it's a difficult one. But given the fact that you've got a plethora of talent in your squad, I imagine you're fairly confident anyway.
Yeah, me and Dom are really confident in the group of being capable of going and competing at step 5. We were fortunate this season. We've played Liverpool and Remica, AFC Liverpool, Gossip North End, Stockport Town, and we were managed to be successful against all of those teams from the step 5 scenario. So we personally believe that the squad's capable to go and compete again. It's going to be harder. There's going to be other challenges. I go back to the Brockton case of, they won our league last year. If they've got into the Midlands and they're in the playoffs, does that give you a bit of a barometer to say that's reasonable if you work hard and you do what you're good at, and we can keep the squad together, which will naturally be a challenge in itself? Then maybe add a couple of players in and can we go and compete again? We're not in it to just sort of survive. We do want to try and push on, and me and Dom and the rest of the backroom team and the board work very hard to try and do everything we can within our power to achieve those goals. So I think this year just gives everybody a reassurance that it is possible. Last year Winsford was second bottom in the division. They survived on a reprieve. So for me,
it's a great reversal of fortunes, isn't it?
Yeah, but it just shows that nothing's ever done. You can, if you work hard enough and things go your way, and there's no reason not to believe you can go and do it.
Is it a case of deep pockets there at Winsford this season,
No.
or is it more to do with fundraising?
Yeah, definitely not deep pockets. It's so the board who came in are a board of a local children's football, youth football club, which they're hoping to amalgamate and create a pathway as a lot of successful non-league clubs do now. It's an entirely, we haven't got any big investor, bankroll, anybody like that. We've been supported amazingly well by local businesses, the likes of John Bounds, who are a local business to us, who've provided us with a brand new tractor and equipment to maintain the pitch, which saved us thousands of pounds, and makes a huge difference. And there's, as I look around, there's been so many who've said, what can we do to help, whether it's financial or otherwise. A local gym, Body Tech, came to me and said, I really want to help you, can I get your gym memberships for your players? What can we do to help? So it has been a genuine, what can we pull together from local businesses and community? And you'll know this yourself, Frank, especially it's vital. You can't overlook the value of it.
No. Listen, I deliberately asked that question because I do realise you've done it the hard way, which makes it even more fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. You'll always get those that look in from the outside and say, they must just be throwing X, Y and Z money at it. I can tell you really clearly that at least 50% of our squad have been offered much more money to go and play elsewhere, higher up the chain, and they've said no, and they've stayed because ultimately they feel like they're part of something that can keep improving, and hopefully me and Don managed to keep convincing people that that's the right thing for their football and help us keep going. So those challenges are very real for us. We are It's Winsford's a working man's town. It's not anything grand and flash by any stretch, but there's a lot of people who are willing to roll the sleeves up and do what's necessary to achieve things.
You'll certainly be enjoying the fruits of that kind of work, because next season you'll be in the FA Cup.
Indeed, yes. Really looking forward to it. It'll be mine and Dom's first venture in management terms of the FA Cup. So we'll be eagerly watching to see where we start on that enormous journey to, you never know, one day be on the BBC draw and see who's coming out of the hat.
Yes, it's spoilt a little bit these days because the first 2 or 3 rounds before you've even played the first game. But it's always exciting to get past that point and then wait for the draw on a Monday afternoon. It's we missed it last season this season because of the relegation. But we've had some fantastic runs in the FA Cup, as you know, and most recently 2020-21 against Harrogate Town in the first round. Listen, it's an amazing feeling to be involved in the FA Cup. It's one of the most exciting parts of being a non-league football club. Just wish it could stretch down to the the division that we're in, but it can't, unfortunately. So listen, that'll be amazing for you. I suppose a better run in the FA Vars, albeit you made the 3rd round, which is I think the furthest you've been.
Yeah, furthest in the history. I think joint furthest. I think they've done it once more a long time ago, 30 years ago or 25 years ago, something like that. And yeah, we sadly just lost out on the 2-1 defeat at home, but it was a brilliant day. We had nearly 500 people here. Sutton brought a couple of coachloads of fans, and it was a brilliant atmosphere. It wasn't an amazing game of football, to be honest. It was one of those that I think both teams were really anxious to get through and couldn't quite play their best. I'll speak for ourselves. We certainly didn't. But by the same token, what really annoyed me in the Vars was, and this isn't an excuse, but I can imagine everybody must have suffered this. We had two of our main players who were suspended for that game because they'd had 2 yellow cards out of the 5 previous games, and I couldn't believe that was a 1-game suspension in the Vars. So one of our players who'd played all 5 rounds had literally a yellow card on, I think, the first round and a yellow card on the 3rd round, or whatever it was, the 2nd round. Sorry. So the following game, he was then suspended. So 2 of our main players for that game were fit and able to play, and one of them being Elliot Coleman, who you mentioned earlier, and they'd had 2 yellow cards, so they were suspended. I just found it slightly unfair that teams that don't come in the preliminary rounds, it seems to me they've got a bit of an advantage because they've got 2 less games to not pick up a yellow card. So yeah, that was the part that frustrated me, to be honest. But
probably did you a favour, really, like you said before.
Yeah, potentially.
If you'd have carried on longer in that competition. I think it happened to Atherton LR that, at one stage they were feeling the sort of repercussions of coming out of a long run in the FA Vars, so they had a little bit of a dip before they pulled it back together. But listen, you're at home to Asheville on Saturday, when I guess you'd be expecting another bumper crowd to continue the celebrations. And talking about celebrations, did anybody wake up with sore heads on Wednesday morning, or have the celebrations been put on ice for now?
No, Tuesday went on into the early hours, and we'll draw a line there. The club. What goes on in the clubhouse stays in the clubhouse. Yeah, so it's good. And then but we will Saturday. It's our final home game. We've been presented the trophy on Tuesday night, so we'll be sharing that success and the trophy with the fans at the end of the game on Saturday. We had nearly 500 here on Tuesday night for the Cheadle game, which is just incredible. So we're hoping that if we can do that and maybe even a little bit more, with it being a nice Saturday afternoon and the trophy on the club have cut admission prices, and there's a free glass of Prosecco, I believe, on entry. So it should be a nice day. It should be a good day. Obviously, for me and Dom, the priority is
winning the
making sure
game.
the team are there to maintain that record.
Yeah.
You know, I agree.
Because you can't relax, can you?
No, and it's not fair on the integrity of the league. You know, Asheville are still competing for a playoff space along with Eccleshall and Cheadle Heath and the like. So, you know, it's not in our makeup to just write these games off because it's done. We'll put on what is the best version of ourselves. You know, yes, we might look to rotate a couple of things, and there's lads who've been playing through niggles that, you know, we might not put through the pain barrier in that extent, but it goes back to the squad is incredibly deep and strong, and there's no reason why we can't. And also that divisional cup game that looks like potentially against Atherton, whoever is the team that has the most points is the team that hosts that game. So there's an extra incentive to make sure we finish on more points than the North champions, so that we can have another home tie and, you know, hopefully another occasion for the fans to come down and see a cup final in effect. So there's plenty to play for. Asheville are a good side, good young team. I really like the manager, Steve there, who's a top guy. And yeah, he's got a good young team there, so it'll be a good game of football. That's for sure. Yeah.
So I take it the real celebrations will start at the end of the season when you play Alsager away from home. I think that'll be a great occasion for you there. Like you say, you got fond memories at Alsager as well. I'm sure they'll be very receptive and happy for you as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I'm sure. And you know, I still occasionally speak to some of the people involved there because you know, I've got great respect for them, and they'll hopefully still continue to, you know, they were very happy with the work we did and the commitment we put in at the club, and it was matched both ways. So yeah, it's a nice way for us to finish the season with especially no pressure on the game, and then we've got our presentation evening that night back at the club. So you're quite right. That will be a really good day and an evening, hopefully, with
sore heads on Sunday morning.
And a few sore heads on Sunday morning, yes indeed.
Listen, I noticed something while researching. Winsford started their footballing life in the Welsh Combination League and were known as Over Wanderers. This is a totally useless piece of information other than to say it's certainly far from over for Winsford United. And having said that, listen, good luck for the future, and pass our regards on to Dom. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And congratulations once again.
Yeah, thank you, gents. I really appreciate you making the time and asking me on. And you know, Dom was really keen to get on it, but circumstances are as such. So yeah, really appreciate it, and I hope you keep up the podcast. It's a brilliant listen, and I tell anyone who would speak to around it to get themselves on and listen to it. So
listen, we absolutely adore you. You can come back.
You can come back, definitely.
Thanks very much again.
Gents.
Thanks, Ian. Take care, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club, Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions, and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles, and the lottery bonus ball scheme, and of course the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Bergquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Hello and welcome to the third and final part of the Speaking Frankly Football Show, and a great thank you to Dean there. What a fabulous guest.
Brilliant guest, absolutely. Got so much to say, very enthusiastic about what he wants to do and is doing for Winsford United, and I think you're right. I think they are a sleeping giant in the midst of being woken up right now. It'll be amazing to see where he takes the club in the future.
And when you look at the amazing sort of overall story, you know, the fact that they don't have a great budget.
No.
You know, they're very reliant on recruiting, you know, good players with limited resources.
Definitely, they must have a really sort of keen eye for it, but then getting the players to buy in to the club at the beginning, but then stay in the club when the big money offers come rolling around, which he, you know, made very clear his team were on the receiving end of on multiple occasions.
Well, I think it's nice to see that clubs without deep pockets are doing really well. Everton are, you know, a classic example of that as well, although I think a little bit better off than they've been in recent years, but hopefully the success that they're having now will you know, sort of continue for a while, and hopefully the townsfolk will get behind them, and local businesses, and improve the prospects when they do move to either the North West Counties Premier or the Midland Premier.
Well, I was looking at the North West Counties website, and one major thing about Winsford and what they were saying about player retention, they've only had less than six players leave the club for pastures new since the season began. 6.
There's been great loyalty there, hasn't there, amongst the players? There's absolutely no doubt about that. But you love a success story like that, don't you? Because listen, we love Bury, and we do. On the slab, we want Bury to win the Premier Division. We've made that clear from the start of the season.
I want them to just turn up for a friendly with us and bring an enormous contingent with them.
Well, that goes out. That question goes out to the Bury supporters out there. Get behind the campaign to
have a friendly
come and visit us at the Marine Travel Arena. In the pre-season,
please.
It would be great if you could. But listen, we are in the final part of the show. We're in that North West Counties roundup. This is the section of the show where we go through our expert analysis.
In inverted commas.
Yes, experts, right. But we run through the forthcoming fixtures and our predictions. So, where do we start?
Okay, so we're going to start on tonight, Friday night. There are 2 games going on in the Premier Division, one of which concerns the title chasers, Lower Breck. They welcome Litherland Remica in a bit of a local derby to the Anfield Sports Community Centre, and you sort of have to say that this is quite one-sided. Lower Breck, top of the form charts, Litherland Remica, second bottom. Who's your money on?
Oh, right. I mean, listen, you've got to go for Lower Breck there, haven't you?
Of course you do.
You'd have to be an idiot to go any other way.
Yeah. Then the other game...
unless you're a Litherland supporter.
Unless you're a Remica supporter, fair enough. And then the other game on tonight's bill is Chadderton versus Pilks, played at Avro.
That could go either way, that couldn't it?
It really could, yeah. So, Chadderton have had a bit of a drop off in form, to say the least. They're without a win in the last 6 games, but they are at home, and they're at home against the Pilks side, who have won. It seems to be win a game, lose a game. Win a game, drop points, win a game, So they're very up and down at the minute. So it really just depends on which kind of Pilks team turns up. It's a home game, though, so you'd be more inclined to say Chadderton at this point.
But we've just got a little feeling maybe that they've got a little bit more work to do, Pilks, in the 46 points.
37.
37. I'm looking at that points possible again. That really, really annoys me, that does.
So with 3 games left to go, they just need 2 points from the last 3 games to be able to safely say that they are over the line.
Well, listen, I'll go for Chadderton there.
All right, I'm going to go for a draw.
A draw.
I'm going to go for a draw here, yes.
Bearing in mind, I got 26 results correct last week. I don't know how many games that was, but it was a fair chunk of them.
Yeah, well, you were absolutely...
You're not declaring what yours?
I haven't declared it just yet. I've absolutely no recollection. I had started totting them all up after Saturday's games, and I'd got like a healthy amount. I think I got about 14 or something like that one. But then I'd completely dropped off by Tuesday. I apologise. We really need to get this up and running properly, don't we? Yeah. Right. Anyway, so you're going to say a home win for Chadderton. I'm going to say a draw. So we move on to Saturday's games, with all of them being 3 o'clock kickoffs, apart from FC Isle of Man, who will play at the usual time of 6. So we're going to start with AFC Liverpool against West Didsbury and Chorlton in what I believe is AFC Liverpool's final game at the Marine Travel Arena, I think.
Yeah. Listen, I think they've made a lot of friends there, from what I gather. Speaking to 1 or 2 people, a lot of Marine supporters went along to the AFC Liverpool games when they could. So it was great that they were getting support from locals as well as anything else. Hopefully, the wish is that they'll help us a little bit and support us next season as well, which would be really appreciated. But like you say, it's going to be probably an emotional time. They've been there for a few years now, haven't they?
They have, and they're going to, hope to leave on a high before they take up their new ground share partnership at Bootle next season. So they're playing a West Didsbury and Chorlton side who just need to scramble a couple more points to secure their place in the playoff semi-finals. So
a draw will do them.
I think, so Earlham are the nearest challengers, 6 points behind with 3 games to go.
I think the goal difference is going to make a big part in this anyway, because even if they lose a couple of games out of the 3 there,
their goal difference is healthy enough that
there's a 14
absolutely. So
goal difference there.
For me, I am going to say an away win.
I'm going for West Didsbury as well.
Okay. Barnoldswick Town versus Prestwich Hayes. So this is pretty much do or die for Prestwich Hayes right now. So they're taking on Barnoldswick side, who are winless in their last 6 games. Don't have an awful lot to play for, but with pride. Whereas Prestwich Hayes, 3 points behind Cone, who currently occupy the first safe position in the Premier Division. It really is all to play for there.
And I think they will go all out for the win, and I think Prestwich Hayes will do the business.
I think they will as well.
Which brings us to Bearscough versus Longridge.
Now, you've got to really say that this is Bearscough all day long. Not only they're on a tremendous run of form.
6 wins out of 7?
6 wins out of 7, just that one loss, which I think was Lower Breck.
No, it was Padding, wasn't it?
Was it Padding? It was
Padding, which was no disgrace at all.
No, not a disgrace at all. Maybe a little bit more expected, even if Dave Dempsey is going to be sort of super analytical about it. But, his team are absolutely on the charge. It won't make any difference to any kind of prospects for the league. They are where they are, very sort of firmly in the middle. They won't get the playoffs, but I think top half I think Dempsey is looking for, and they're looking odds on to do that, especially with a couple of more wins out of these final 3 games. They could easily finish in the top half of the table, maybe even top 10. Bearscough win for me.
Yeah, I'll go along with that. The big game.
Yes.
Berry versus Padding. Huge game. Padding have already claim their spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's more for Berry, unless you're looking for positional superiority in the playoffs.
Yes, positional superiority doesn't really play too much of a part. Padiham would need to win their last 3 games and hope that Ramsbottom lose all of theirs in order to overhaul them into 3rd place, which would mean a home game for them in the playoff semis, but they don't need to worry too much about West Didsbury and Chorlton overhauling them because they are 9 points clear themselves. So I think for Padiham, if they can put themselves in the strongest position possible going into this, not only in terms of positionally but in terms of mentality, then it would be awesome for them to get a result here at Bury. Bearing in mind as well, that they could stop the Bury train if they liked, and maybe do Lower Breck a favour in the process.
Well, let's state first of all, Lower Breck, if they win tonight, they will be on the same points as Bury, but they've got an inferior goal difference.
Only by 6, and we know what Lower Breck are like for goal scoring, so this could be a prime opportunity for them to close that goal difference gap.
So they could score a few goals.
Yep.
Bury could lose, which, if they lose by 1-0 and Lower Breck win by 5, then,
that switches it all around.
Switches it all around.
Yeah.
So it's what do I say? What's my terminology?
Twitchy bum time.
It's twitchy bum time for Bury and Bury supporters. I think this is one that they'll be looking at and hoping they can put to bed quick.
Yeah, I would certainly think that would be kind of Bury's prerogative, really. 16 goals scored in the last 6 games and 6 clean sheets. No other team has that kind of record. Now granted, they have played teams, towards the lower end of the table. They played Pilks and Squires Gate in their 2 most recent games, and that's no disrespect to Pilks and to Squires Gate, but it's a completely different animal in Padiham altogether. I'm going to say a home win, but only just.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's reasonable to say that, because Padiham, they've got a good goals for record. They've scored 101 goals.
Yeah,
one of those 3 teams in the top 5 that have scored 100 plus goals.
Yes.
So in terms of scoring, they've got scoring ability. They concede more. Arguably, you could say this has got the hallmarks of a draw, but I'm going to go for Bury as well.
Yeah, a draw would certainly favour Lower Breck. Padiham, maybe not so much. I mean, I don't think a draw would do anything more for them other than give them confidence going into the playoffs. So I will say, I'll stick with home win, but I think it'll be very tight.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Now then, Cone, looking to maintain that little bit of momentum after their win last week. And they play Cheadle Town, who themselves have lost the last 4 games, sitting 15th in the table, which is comfortable. But you would want to think that all the momentum and all the motivation is with Cone.
Most definitely, and I think the other things that will go in their favour will be the home advantage and the pitch.
Certainly will.
Listen, it'll be quite dry at the moment, won't it?
It will, yeah. I mean, Bury is one of those places, or Cone, pardon me, in the Bury district is one of those places where it's high above sea level and near enough anywhere else around here. So you'd be inclined to think that if there was any hint of frostiness, Cone would probably see it first. Now, with that in mind, and bearing in mind Cheadle Town's poor run of form of late, I will say Cone to win.
Yeah, I'm going to go along with that.
And if Cone do win and Prestwich Hayes lose, then that will all but relegate Prestwich Hayes.
In terms of the goal difference, though, just a slight edge.
Prestwich Hayes do have that. Yeah, I mean, it really depends if and how much they lose by against Barnard's Wick, if indeed that was to be the case.
But either way, uphill battle for Prestwich.
Enormous uphill battle for Prestwich Hayes there. Yeah.
But FC St Helens versus South Liverpool.
Yeah. So South Liverpool are on.
Been doing okay.
They're sort of up and down at the minute. 1 win and 3 draws, but they are leaking goals quite severely. Really, I think there's only 2 teams that have conceded more goals than they have. With that being said, FC St Helens, 2 wins in the last 6, but also leaking goals themselves. Given South Liverpool haven't scored an awful lot of goals in their last 6, only scored 7, which admittedly is one a game.
Feeling you're going towards a draw, are you?
I am going to say a home win, but only
I'm surprised. I thought you were going for a draw there, but listen, I'll go along with you there. FC St Helens, I think, quite formidable at home, so let's have them.
Earlham versus Abbey Hay. Now, this one's a really strange one to call because Earlham was still knocking on that door of that final playoff promotion, but they've, without a win in their last 4 games, including 3 draws, not seeing much luck in front of goal. 9 goals scored in 6 games, which is an average of just over 1 a game, but they're not seeming to hold on to those leads at all. Even with home advantage, I don't see it going all their own way.
Yeah, but they've got to live in hope, haven't they? And hope that, like I say, the other team, West Didsbury, fall apart. I can't see it happening.
No, I can't. And particularly against an Abbey Hay side who've actually been quite strong of late. They lost their last game, but that was at home to Padiham. So you'd have to say the onus is really kind of with Abbey Hay at this point.
I think psychologically now it's gone from Earlham's perspective.
I'm going to say a draw on that note.
You know what? I'll go for a draw as well.
Alrighty. Rami against Stockport Town. So Rami are bouncing back, 5 straight wins, 12 goals scored, 4 conceded, and Stockport Town, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses, but did win their last game.
Listen, I fully expect that Steve Wilkes' side will comfortably win that one.
Yeah, I think so too. So home win for me. Yep. Squires Gate against Glossop North End. Now this is a really odd one because Squires Gate, although they're at the bottom, have shown a bit of fight, whereas Glossop North End, their form's sort of gone off a bit of a cliff. Really,
gone off the boat, hasn't
it has. Yeah, they did. Obviously, they won 1-0 a few weeks ago against Charnock Richard, but other than that it's just been losses all around, and I have to say I don't really see that changing, so I'm going to say a draw here.
Listen, I'm going to go for Glossop just purely because I want Richard to get back to winning ways.
Alrighty, fair enough. Now then, the last game, FC Isle of Man versus Charnock Richard, 2 teams very much middle of the table as well. FC Isle of Man in 12th, Charnock Richard in 14th. Not particularly.
Promised to be a really good season, didn't it? At one stage for FC Isle of Man.
Yeah, 100%. They really were kind of on the charge, so to speak. But then it just dropped off.
They've done well, nevertheless. That travelling.
Yeah, that travelling must take it out of them as the season kind of goes on.
You forget these are all working men as well.
They are. And then they've got to travel by boat every single away game. So, they lost to Lower Breck in their last game by 4-0, which was, quite a I think they'll find that disappointing. Whereas Charnock Richard reached the final of the Macron Cup by beating Barnton, so they are on a bit of a run, so to speak, and they have actually won their last 3 games, including that win there. So the onus is with Charnock Richard here, but home advantage can still play a bit for FC Isle of Man, so I am going to say a draw. If they can keep Nathan Nickius quiet, I think FC Isle of Man are in for a decent game. Yeah.
Do you fancy a trip away to the Isle of Man to a show there, a speaking frankly
special?
Yeah,
do it on game day. That would be quite extraordinary.
Listen, we went there last year and it was
amazing,
fabulous sound. It really is.
Yeah, you can take the plane. I'll take the boat. I do not do flying.
No, you don't at all. No.
If I have to, if it's somewhere like Greece, I can't just take the train or a couple of boats.
So you don't mind holidaying?
I don't mind holidaying, no, but I hate planes. I just did my last holiday was in September, and we went to Malta, and it was a horrible experience. I really hated it. Didn't enjoy it. So.
No. Listen, we went to we had a long weekend at where am I now?
FC Isle of Man?
Yeah, we had a long weekend at the Isle of Man. We really enjoyed it, but we gave up our free seats on the aeroplane.
Really?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, and I didn't know at the time. I'm really glad that we did, because the players and the rest of the management team, they went on a twin propeller aeroplane, whereas we went on EasyJet, which was far more comfortable. And bearing in mind we were on the at the time we were on the sort of cusp of a storm as well. Yeah, it wasn't.
No, that would have bleeding terrified me. I'd sooner have the boats called off, but actually just be in a boat, quite honestly.
But I think we could take more equipment over there. We could take the equipment all over on a boat. We could take more on a boat than we could on an aeroplane.
100%.
Yeah, so I'm up for that. Anybody put us up there, give us an invite, and we'll come along and we'll interview Paul Jones again.
Again, yeah. If you listen to the show, we'd really appreciate that. Even just a shout out.
Yeah, and a shout out to Paul Jones. Listen,
yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
So what are we going for?
Draw for me.
You're going for a draw. I'm going for the other man.
Very well. So we're going to move to the First Division South now, as we
go bottom upwards,
as we tend to do. Yes.
Yeah.
So we are going to start with Wolves, the Wolverhampton Sporting Community, who are taking on Stafford Town.
Well, it's all over for Stafford, isn't it? In terms of they're not going to win the title.
They're not going to win the title, and they
do want to show a little bit of form going into the playoffs.
You would hope that they want to show a little bit of form going into the playoffs. They do have an enormous showdown with Cheadle Heath Nomads on that Tuesday night. Not to mention they have cup finals against both Atherton LR and Charnock Richard to come in the Edward Case Cup and the Macron Cup respectively, and I should imagine all eyes will kind of be on that. So, will they do Wolverhampton Sporting Community a favour and play a weakened team? I do not think so, and I think they will just edge it. Away win for me.
Yeah, definitely going for the away win, albeit I think Wolverhampton Sporting Community, they need to win that at all costs, only if there's any chance of them.
There's a 4-point difference. Yeah. So if Allscott Heath get anything out of their game, even if they don't, Allscott Heath don't need to win, but Wolverhampton Sporting Community do. Yeah. If they don't, it's all over.
Yeah. Well, listen. Yeah, we've both gone for Stafford Town. So should we get to the top? The Alsager Town versus Barnton.
Yeah, absolutely. So Alsager Town, it's looking unlikely that they'll make the playoffs. Too big a gap to overcome with 2 games left. And in fact, I don't even believe that they can. No, numerically speaking, they can't. It's a straight fight between Eccleshall and Asheville. So Alsager Town versus Barnton. You'd be minded to say
listen, I'll go for Alsager.
Fine, I'm going to say a draw here.
Cheadle Heath Nomads versus Eccleshall.
Yeah, so Cheadle Heath Nomads, again, another one of those teams that could make the playoffs still at the expense of Eccleshall. So this is a massive game for them. It's the start of 2 massive games for them. They need to win this if they're going to stand any chance of getting back into their fight. Looking at form recently, it's kind of gone off a cliff for them. Just 1 win in their last 6 games, whereas Eccleshall 4 wins out of 6. I just see that being an away win.
Yeah, Eccleshall. Yep, Foley Mere versus Abbey Holton United.
Yeah, so Foley Mere, made a good account for themselves by drawing at the weekend against, I think it was Alsager that they drew with at the weekend. It was, 90th minute penalty securing a point for them there. So, they're clear of the of relegation as well. So, I would think. I would say an away win, just purely on the basis of Abbey Holton's recent run, 3 straight wins. Yeah. So it's an away win for me.
Abbey Holton for me.
Yes. Market Drayton Town versus Camel Laird 1907. So this is a bit of a weird one because normally we would have probably put Market Drayton Town in to win, and they've had they had a good result in the middle of the week. At the middle of the week, they beat Stafford. I think it was Stafford. Was it Stafford? I can't bloody remember. We do our homework on this, I promise you.
Yeah, we do.
No, it was Sandbach. That was it. It was Sandbach they beat. I knew it was one of the promotion chasing teams. So it was a really good result for them. A 3-0 win against Sandbach. But Camel Laird in themselves just keep surprising us. 4 wins out of the last 6, 10 goals scored, 7 conceded. It's really not that bad for them. They're making a good account for themselves. So I'm going to say a draw here.
Well, listen, I'm going for market Drayton Town, purely based on the fact that Dan Dawson's a fabulous bloke.
And we really like him. Congratulations to Dan as well on the recent birth of his son as well.
Oh yeah,
huge congratulations, Dan.
Yeah, well done for that.
Yeah.
Scoring both on the pitch.
Good grief, Franklin. It's a family show. Anyway.
Right, New Mills versus Allscott Heath.
Yeah, so New Mills and Allscott Heath, two very out of form teams.
I'm going for a draw.
I'm going to go for a draw too. If they were to get a draw, Allscott Heath, it would effectively secure their position in the league for next season. So draw for me. Sandbach versus Runcorn. So Sandbach in 4th, Runcorn in 13th. But they're not very much to be separating them recently, but Sandbach are losing more games, so I'd be minded to say a draw, just home advantage playing for a bit for Sandbach there.
Yeah, I think just about edge it because the necessity more than anything, to cement that place in the playoffs. I think it's going to be Sandbach.
Yeah, all right then. And then Shawbury against Stockport Georgians. So Shawbury, if they lose, they're down. But Stockport Georgians are the form team at the minute. Just the one loss in their last 6
Unfortunately,
games.
I think they're going down.
Yeah, so I think that will be a Stockport Georgians win, and that will sort of condemn both Shawbury United and Wolverhampton Sporting Community.
And the champions, Winsford, are home to Asheville.
Yeah, that's a home win for me all day.
Yeah, good luck on that one.
Absolutely, yeah. Dean
Brilliant.
Jones, he says, he wants to preserve that unbeaten run. Unbeaten. Are they unbeaten all season? No, just two losses. Just
23 games unbeaten.
Absolutely. It's just astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah, 23 game run since the end of 31st of August. Since started on the 31st of August last year. Absolutely amazing. And considering that their main goal scorer
was out for 10
games. They've got a few, but he was out for 10 games. Amazing.
Absolutely astonishing. So yeah, fair play.
First Division North. We'll come to us last.
Yeah,
we'll start with Ashton Athletic versus Route 1 Rovers.
Yeah.
I think Route 1 Rovers are going to win this.
Okay.
I think Ashton have underperformed this season.
Ashton have
expected more from them, and
yeah, I think you're probably right.
A very established team.
They did have a very established team, yeah, and they've not won in their last 3 games either, which doesn't really help matters. Whereas Route 1 have won 2 of their last 6 and scored, quite a decent 10 goals in front of goal as well, which I think is only topped off by 3 or 4 teams, actually. The teams that we'd probably expect to be up there. So I am going to say a win as well. Atherton LR versus Backup-Borough. That's a home win for me all day long. I just see Davy Jones wanting to put the stamp on what I anticipate to be. He won't agree with me. He won't say it, but I think they're going to win the league.
They will win the league if they win this game, won't they?
Yeah, they will, actually. There's nothing that Nelson could do.
If they're going to repeat
Winsford?
Well, yeah, if they're going to repeat what Winsford did and win the title at home.
Yeah, I think they will.
What a place to do it, yeah.
Home win for us, for Atherton against Bacon.
For us. Yeah, we just feel so passionate, don't we?
We're very connected to a lot of these clubs now, having spoken to so many.
The trouble is, once we've got round to all of them, we'll love them all, and we won't know what to say anymore, will we? Exactly. We'll have to close the show.
Oh God!
We'll have to start something else.
There you go. Darstang versus AFC Blackpool. AFC Blackpool. Yeah, their form's kind of gone off a bit of a cliff, really, but they did get back to winning ways with a 4-1 win over Thornton Clevelands in midweek. So Luke Heppel, Jacob Gregory back amongst the goal scorers. So yeah, I see a win for them there. Holcott Old Boys versus Thornton Clevelands.
Holcott Old Boys.
Yeah. McGull versus Exton Villa.
It's going to be a draw.
But I'm going to say an away win. I think, although Exton Villa's form has kind of tailed off a little bit, no win in their last 3 games, but they are unbeaten in 5 over the last 6, despite that shock result against Route 1 Rovers. I still think that they've got enough to beat McGull, whose own form is inconsistent at best. So away win.
Yeah, a draw will do them though. For the playoffs.
Yeah. Maybe they will then. Main Road against Droylsden. So Droylsden are going to have to kind of put that disappointing result against LR behind them against Main Road. I do see them winning that game.
I'll go on with you there.
Nelson against Daisy Hill. So.
Well, you know what? This is a difficult game, isn't it? Because Daisy Hill managed to produce some shocks since the Aaron Hunt Roadshow took over.
Tailed into town, So they obviously they beat us. In midweek, but they're unbeaten in 5 coming into this game.
Weirdly though, the Nelson are the home team playing Daisy Hill at the Daisy Arena.
It's ironic, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I think that suggests that maybe Daisy Hill might win that game.
Yeah,
I'm going to go for Daisy Hill, actually.
All right, I'm going to go for Nelson just purely based on, how powerful they've been.
You're going to kick yourself when you get this one right.
Don't even say it.
Steeton, Darwin.
Darwin for me.
Yeah, most definitely. And coming to us, of course, then.
Is it to us? So we take on Ashton Town. So Ashton Town beat us 3-0 in the reverse fixture at the community ground a couple of months ago, and we said that they weren't particularly good value for that win. We think that we were a little bit wasteful in some areas, a little bit switched off in others. That being said, Ashton Town, they come into this game on the back of beating McGull. They've had a couple of losses, but otherwise they're in reasonably good form coming into this home game. Now this is a 1:00 kickoff because the local community decided that horses running in a straight line is more enticing than step 6 football. I
think it always has, particularly in the northwest. It's always had a huge effect on crowds. We used to do it. We used to try not to play at White Moss Park when we were at White Moss Park on a Grand National Day. The crowds were paltry. People just don't turn up. They'd sooner watch that one race a year. Make any sense to me? I don't even watch it anymore. We used to have sweepstakes and everything, but I'm not really into it anymore.
Nah, I watched it once. Yeah, my horse came second. That was the last I engaged in it.
That's okay. I think you're good enough.
Yeah, it's quite.
Not to.
So,
did you have money on it?
I did.
Yeah, how much?
£5.
£5?
Yes.
Each way, or just
each way?
Each way. Oh, so you won something back?
I won £10.
Oh well. Brilliant.
I was very disappointed. I thought I'd win more, and then I realised what each way meant.
Oh. Anyway, listen. Where's your? It's going to be a difficult one for us, this, because we've got no firepower. We know that.
No,
we're going to be severely hampered by a depleted squad.
Yeah, injuries. We've had a good couple of promising young starlets come through the squad in the last few games. Joe Draper's been great. Keegan Kelly made a good account for himself in his little cameo on Tuesday night, full of running. That kid is rapid as well, so that would be helpful for us.
He's only 16, isn't he? 16
yeah,
or 17.
They're young lads, these lot, so they're being given harsh lessons all up and down the table, unfortunately. What
do you make of our new goalkeeper, Joe Draper?
Joe Draper was great. He commands his box well, his distribution, and he saved a penalty on Tuesday night as well, don't forget. The follow-up. Great kid. He's very, very
brave. Got a bright future ahead of him. So
I think if we can stifle the Lomax brothers, George and Christopher, then I think we've got a really good chance. Bearing in mind, though, and I don't like admitting this one because Mikey Howard plays for Ashton Town, and he scored against McGull, and I hate to think of the notion of Mikey Howard coming back to Skem and scoring, and it's another kind of edge to their attacking prospects as well. They've usually kind of had the Lomax brothers scoring en masse for them, but if we can stifle those two, the Lomax brothers, as I said, then I think we're in for a good chance. So I'm hoping for a draw here.
And just an interesting little fact there, Kevin Towie, former Skelmersdale United
manager.
legend, who's the manager of Ashton Town, of course.
He's the manager of Ashton Town.
This will be the first time that they've actually gone head-to-head with Tommy in the dugouts, because the home game...
He wasn't there.
No. So that'll be an interesting one as well, because Tommy was the one that brought Kevin to the Skem in the first place.
Yeah. If it helps, he ran the Wigan Half Marathon a few weeks ago, the same time as I did, and I beat him. So we're at least 1-0 up, if nothing else there.
Tommy?
No! Kevin!
I was going to say, you can't brag about that then, can you?
We're not beating Tommy, that's unfair. Across the line.
So what time did you do it in? Just remind us.
1:36.
That's amazing there. And what did Kevin do it in?
I think he did a 1:38.
Right. Yeah. Do you want to ring him? Tell him.
Well, we're 1-0.
He'll know now anyway.
Potentially.
He's listening to
we're
this
1-0 up already anyway. So I think we'll take a point from the Bartons Group Stadium.
Yeah, you going for a draw then?
I am going to say a draw.
Listen, I'm going to stay consistent.
And Skem going to win.
I've been right twice this season. So.
Bearing in mind as well that this game is on the MixLR airwaves with live radio commentary coming from 12:45. So please, So if you're wondering about how to access the live commentary, it's MixLR. That's the app, and then if you just search Skelmersdale United, you'll find the live commentary for the game against Ashton, as well as previous commentary from Exton, Atherton, and Route 1 and Steeton, where we've gone previously.
But you will be able to get back in time with the kick. You know, if you are a horse lover, you'll be able to get back in time for the
big run.
The big run, yes. Listen, just the final few fixtures of sort of next week is Tuesday, the 8th of April. Stafford Town are at home to Cheadle
Chief Nomads.
Cheadle Heath Nomads in the First Division South.
It's a big game for Cheadle Heath Nomads. They've got to, they've got to hope that they can get something from that game, and I think they will. I think Stafford are, like you say, juggling an awful lot of plates there. They're sort of running a little bit out of firepower. Dean talked about Patrick Mazurkovic, their top scorer. He hasn't scored for a couple of games as well, which would be handy for Stafford, for Cheadle. So I'm going to say a draw there.
I'm going to go for Stafford.
All right. Campion versus Route 1 Rovers in the West Riding County Cup semi-final. We don't know anything about Campion, but I think they'll win.
I'm going for Route 1 Rovers.
Fine. And then Thursday night, which is Lower Breck night, and that sees them against Runcorn Linnets in the Liverpool Senior Cup semi-finals. I'm going to say Runcorn Linnets on this one.
I'm going to say Runcorn Linnets, and I'm not going to say that there'll be any attempt to sort of throw a game. But
all eyes are going to be on their promotion chase.
It all depends what happens this weekend, of course, doesn't it, really? So but listen, I'll go for Runcorn Linnets as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Runcorn Linnets are in action this weekend against Clitheroe. So they've got a bit of a hurdle to overcome first before they even think about visiting Lower Breck.
Yeah, well, listen, I think that's a comprehensive roundup of all the fixtures.
Yes.
So we get to that part of the show where we talk about what we've learned so far in the final in the last week.
Yeah. So for me, what I've learned is that community plays an enormous part of helping a club at our end of the semi-professional pyramid. If you haven't got a community behind you of any sort, you're not going to get very far. And I think Winsford United have shown that they can and are tapping into those resources that are helping them build a really strong club, not just a team on the pitch, but a club off of it as well, in time for next season, regardless of whether they end up in the North West Counties Premier or the Midland Premier Division. So that's one part of what I learned. Another one is that there is very little substitute for loyalty. And I say that again from a point of view of Winsford, but I also say that from a point of view of our own team as well. We're maybe losing, quite regularly, as has been documented, but we're getting the same players every week now, and we have been doing since about Christmas time. You know, we've got our back four or back five almost kind of picks themselves, really. You know, our midfield. You know, you've got the same handful of names in the squad and the starting 11 every single week, and I think, you know, it was the same at Winsford, it's the same here. And I think if you asked management, if you asked chairman, if you asked anybody associated with the team but not on the pitch, they would say that they're incredibly grateful to those players, you know, regardless of the temptation to move on to pastures new, that they are incredibly grateful for them staying around. Loyalty, there isn't a substitute.
No. What have I learned? Well, sometimes when it feels as though you've got more enemies than friends, you need to sit down, take a breather, relax, and tune into what the real thing is. And I've found over the past week that, you know, there's certainly far more friends out there than enemies. And I spoke to someone during the week, I think it might have even been the game on Tuesday night, said that, you know, he'd love to reply to the naysayers, but you know what ends up happening when you do that. You end
shouting at brick walls.
Yeah, and then they just shout even louder, don't they? So I've learned I've got an awful lot of friends. I've learned that you do have to sometimes just take a break and a breather. And I've come back fighting even tougher. So yeah, it's been a tough week. It's been a tough couple of weeks, but you know, but listen, we go again, and listen, let's see what happens. We don't know whether there's going to be any reprieves or whatever. But whatever happens, we'll take our medicine.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. So that's
That's what you've learned.
Yeah, that's what I've learned. So I was going to say, and I think you can't say the final words go to me, so I need to say, and AJ, the final words go to AJ.
You've been listening to the Speaking Frankly Football Show with myself, AJ Vergette, and my co-host, Mr. Frank Hughes. We are available as a podcast on various streaming services, including Amazon Music and Spotify. Please remember to subscribe to us so that you can be the first to hear when a new episode has been released. Please also rate and review, because we love taking on your feedback and hearing your thoughts about our show. We are also online on social media platforms X and Facebook under the banner Speaking Frankly. So we will see you next week for the 22nd episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show. Until then, bye-bye for now.